Hello and welcome back to OmniFoot TV. This is your host Omar speaking, and tonight's video is primarily about the supposed dark age that Barcelona are going through, and it's going to contain some commentary on La Liga, mainly because La Liga has sort of fallen off in terms of its financials. Not so in comparison to the Premier League, because obviously in England things work entirely differently, with English clubs outspending every other club in Europe due to the television rights, the broadcasting rights, obviously producing a much more broad revenue, that being the main point. Now, primarily in regards to Barcelona, their signing of Oriol Romeu in particular 2 days ago irked me, and I think it made a bit of a mockery of the FCB fan base, because everyone was reacting in the same way. Now, I'm familiar with Romeu, particularly because he did play for Chelsea for one season under AVB when he signed him in 2012. For those who aren't familiar with AVB, this is Andres Villas-Boas. Romeu then went over to Southampton and played there for a couple of seasons. He was primarily a mid-table midfielder, more so than he was someone who could break into a team that played in the top six. So seeing him somehow end up in Barcelona was confusing to me, because I actually thought he had retired. I didn't know he was 31 years old. But the fact that he was unveiled randomly and that there was no news behind his signing, I hadn't seen someone like Fabrizio, for example, care to even mention such a thing before it was official and before he was unveiled by the club itself. Now, Barca have been going through a famine of sorts, not to put too much a point on it or to be too dramatic, but the club has lost a ton of money, especially since the Bartomeu days, and Laporta is trying his best to steer the ship towards steady waters. They've sold a chunk of their television rights, they've sold assets, multiple assets in fact, that the club has held near and dear for years or decades even, as far as I know at least. And now we are in a situation where the financial instability continues to haunt the club. Bearing in mind that Barca have just won La Liga this past season. It's a little confusing to me because I've come on here and talked about Serie A multiple times. I've had or done commentary in regards to how Serie A has financially fallen off, despite the fact that it has been ranked higher in terms of UEFA's top 5 leagues ranking at, I think, number 3. I made a video about that one, but I can't necessarily remember the ranking, but I do remember that they jumped up a place. And Serie A has obviously been the focal point or the centerpiece of a lot of scrutiny due to the decline, the overall decline of Italian football, and yet the quality is there. La Liga is more so geared towards the Real Madrid-Barcelona rivalry, and it is marketed as such, with President Javier Tebas constantly going out on a limb to criticize Barcelona in particular. Now, why is this important? Because, in my humble opinion at the very least, when we were moving away from the pandemic and the news began to surface that both giants in Spain, either Barca or Madrid, were struggling financially, and they were in deep debt, it shook everyone. And it makes a certain amount of sense that they did end up in that kind of debt, although as a Chelsea fan, I find it odd, mainly because my club didn't end up in any kind of debt whatsoever, which is a miracle to me. I have no idea how Roman handled his business at the time, but I'm not going to go back into that, merry-go-round. But I do want to make a point and say that to this day, ever since the pandemic, I have no idea how Madrid actually get their deals done. Madrid in particular have managed to sign players despite the fact that it seems as though they have no money. And the debt gap between both sides isn't that big. One of them, Barcelona, was maybe 800 million in debt, with Madrid over 1 billion in debt. And to think that Barca has continuously struggled much more than Madrid. With one side winning the Champions League 2 seasons ago and the other winning their domestic title, with all of this being an ongoing issue, it raises eyebrows. And it makes me wonder, where is Spain in all this? Because we focus so heavily on England, we focus so heavily on Italy. And France is obviously this, they've actually dropped off, their league has dropped off Europe's top 5 leagues and has been replaced by the Jupiler League, aka the Belgian League, the Belgian Super League. That's what it was called. And it's not like a European Super League format, but still. It raises just more and more questions. And France's obvious presence is more so due to PSG being owned by a Qatari entity than anything else. In Spain, if you are all aware, most of these clubs are government owned, if not all of them. Actually, most of them, because I just remember that there are American investors who own certain clubs in La Liga and in Segunda. So, most of these clubs, especially Madrid and Barcelona, they're state-owned assets. So the business side of things moves differently over there. It's not contextualized in the same way as football is in the Premier League, where you have foreign investors, foreign billionaires, or local billionaires who own these clubs under company names. And yet, I've never seen anyone hark about La Liga. It's been a 2-horse race for decades, for the most part. But there are, clubs who have done extremely well to usurp either or both. Throughout multiple seasons in the last 20 years, And yet, we find ourselves in a situation where one just has to wonder. These clubs don't make as much money as the English clubs do, especially when competing in their domestic leagues, because broadcasting rights and revenue, like I said in the beginning of this video, is close to double for the English clubs. As far as I can even remember, if you're promoted from the Championship, which is the English second division, you make more money than a La Liga club going through its entire season in Spain's top flight division and earning the television revenue. And this is all television revenue. I'm probably gonna, if asked about this, I'll link my sources in the comments section. But it's still a very interesting thing, because Spain has dominated European football for a very long time. And they've won a ton of European competitions. And it's, for the most part, been England, Spain, in terms of club competitions. I'm talking continental here. So, jumping off from one point into the other, the way Barcelona keep falling off and struggling is a little weird to me. Like, this whole situation is weird. I know why it's happening. I know what Bartomeu did. I've covered that before, and I absolutely despise it. As a fan of the sport and as someone who loves the sport, even if they are rivals on a continental basis in regards to my club, this isn't good. Madrid struggling and somehow still managing to sign players has been a mystery for a couple of seasons now. And the whole league overall not being subject to as much media attention, despite the good marketing, despite the fact that people do follow it. It's interesting. It's like they're there, but they're not there. And this is just me sharing my thoughts on the matter, because I've rarely come across football fans in general who've had much to say about Spanish football. They've either been Madrid or Barcelona fans, some have been Atletico fans, and not necessarily local, mind you. Excuse the noise outside. But the point is, it's never been a a point of criticism or a focal point or centerpiece of where people have been drawn to criticize the way things are moving over there, for the most part. And this is removed from the whole Javier Tebas Barcelona fiasco that has been ongoing for close to 2 seasons now. Mainly because I think Tebas is trying to choke the life out of the club and remove whatever corruption is left by doing so. But that's probably a controversial statement, so I'm not going to elaborate on that, mainly because I would prefer to do a lot more research than talk about this particular point. But I would like to know what you guys think, especially if you followed Spanish football throughout the last couple of seasons. And that's it for this video. If you like this video, please leave a comment in the comment section to let me know what you think. If you agree or disagree with any points that I have made, I would prefer there to be healthy discourse in the comments section. If you like this video, go ahead and press the like button, click the bell notifications button as well, because we upload content on a daily basis, and subscribe if you're new, because based on our analytics, there are 95 people who watch, or 95% of the people who actually watch the content I post on the channel aren't subscribed, so I don't know what you guys are waiting for. And apart from that, I will see you all tomorrow, next time the whistle blows. Cheers everyone, thank you for watching.